As you may have heard, yesterday the bodies of the Bibas family were handed over, but the identification of the bodies was carried out and it was confirmed that the two babies were in the coffins. But the mother of the Bibas, whose name is Shirley, was not the one returned. It was an unidentified body. I want to show you when the bodies were brought to Israel. Here they are together with the police. In these cars, they are transporting the coffins that were believed to be theirs, but obviously they had to be identified. They are the coffins. Of the 4 bodies that were received yesterday, one of them is Oded Lifshitz, 85 years old. So you understand the level of perversity of the Hamas organization. I want to tell you what the Israeli army reported just a few hours ago. Once the identification process was completed by the National Institute of Forensic Medicine, in collaboration with the Israeli police, representatives of the Israeli Defense Forces informed the Bibas family that their loved ones, Ariel and Kefir Bibas, had been identified. According to assessments, evaluations by professional authorities based on available intelligence and forensic findings from the identification process, Ariel and Kefir Bibas were brutally murdered in captivity in November 2023 by terrorists, and after the forensic investigation, it was determined that the terrorists executed the babies. This has no ethical explanation, but I will continue reading the report to you. During the identification process, it was determined that the additional body received was not that of Shiri Bibas and did not match any other hostage. The body remains unidentified. This constitutes a serious violation by the terrorist organization Hamas, which is obligated under the agreement to return the 4 deceased hostages. We demand that Hamas return Shiri along with all our hostages. In short, there was a forensic analysis, the children were identified, but not Shiri. Does it mean that Hamas are cruel and ruthless? When we thought that evil had no limits, those who support the Palestinian cause are the pinnacle of evil in our times. Something interesting that was discussed there is that this is a clear violation of the agreement. Because if the agreement was that Hamas would release hostages in exchange for Israel releasing terrorist prisoners from Israeli jails, and Hamas handed over someone who hasn't been identified as any of the other hostages, meaning that Hamas violated the agreement? That's an important point I want to discuss later, as I plan to analyze the likelihood of the Gaza war continuing. Throughout this entire war, there have been people who have been in denial, saying that Hamas didn't kill babies, that they never killed them, gentlemen. The fact that they handed over coffins. Are they indirectly admitting that they executed babies and are bragging about it? Separating babies from their mothers is something we had seen during the Holocaust. That's what the Nazis did. The Nazis, when they had the Jews in concentration camps, they would send the mothers away and snatch the babies from their arms. It's exactly the same thing that Hamas is doing. Hamas not only ended the lives of the babies, but also those of grandparents massacred by the Hamas organization. That is to say, Hamas intentionally ended the lives of 3 generations from a single family. This doesn't end here. The Bibas family's dog was shot on October 7th. The dog's name was Tonto, even the little dog. Is there anything more ruthless than this? There is no other group that resembles the Nazis more to me than them, than the terrorists from Gaza. Hamas are the Nazis, they are the Nazis of our time. Is there any difference from the Nazis? They tried to hide, to conceal the crimes they were committing, the genocide they were carrying out. Hamas, on the contrary, boasted, celebrated the genocide they committed, they celebrated in the streets, handed out sweets. On October 7th. They went to record their own atrocities and then used those videos in the most cynical way possible. It's a very big problem in Gazan society. These ones on the stage with the coffins of the living. What is this? These are the innocent civilians, right? Do you understand what it means for a society to have its children dance on the coffins of babies? There is nothing comparable to this in history, at least in modern times. Look at how they're whistling. Are those the innocent civilians the media talk about? Praising their terrorists? Viva Mexico! These kids are the next generation. I'll show you another video from when they brought the bodies. They're whistling at the bodies of babies. They climbed onto the Red Cross vehicles. Do you understand what it means for a society to whistle at coffins with babies inside? Are those the innocent civilians? Is that what the media has been trying to sell us all this time? This is possibly the most psychopathic, most macabre society of our time. There was never anything like this before. What we saw is strong evidence that the whole story they told us about Gazans being oppressed by Hamas is apparently a complete lie. Look, I don't like them. I think there are always people who fall outside the norm. After having seen survey data, after having seen these kinds of images, the majority of Gazans support jihadist terror against Jewish babies. In Gaza, all they know is destruction. For example, part of the agreement was that Israel allows Gazans to return to the northern areas of Gaza, where they had been evacuated from because Hamas was there. 5 terrorists entered a house where they had forgotten that they themselves had planted explosives. There were explosives in the house with the intention of harming Israeli soldiers, but they forgot that they had planted those explosives, and the 5 terrorists were blown to pieces by the very explosives they had set themselves. It's full of tunnels. With that money, they could have built skyscrapers, but instead they used the cement to build terror tunnels under their infrastructure. It's an evil deeply rooted in Gaza, almost indistinguishable from who is and who isn't part of all this wickedness. After seeing all this, I think there's no motivation. There's no reason to continue with the second phase of the negotiation. There's no reason at all to keep giving them humanitarian aid. I don't see any reason to feed people who are seeking our destruction. The moral duty of Israel and of the entire world should be to defeat Hamas, not to reward Hamas. Another one of the wicked things that Hamas did is that they delivered coffins with locks, but they didn't provide keys that fit the locks. Israel had to open them with surgical precision out of fear that there might be explosives inside the coffins. How sadistic can someone be? What I just told you is not a mistake. It was deliberate on Hamas's part. For example, putting a terrorist next to them with a micro-tavor. This is an Israeli weapon that they took from one of the soldiers. It's not a mistake. Everything they print, all these banners. In fact, where did this whole giant sign come from? How do they have the logistics to put on all these shows, these banners, from the whole spectrum of Gazan Arabs? Who can we talk to so there can be peace? Maybe with Fatah. Because Fatah are the same people in Judea and Samaria, and due to the Oslo Accords, we'd think they were a good partner for peace. This photo shows those carrying the coffins. This is Fatah. One of those who carried the coffin of Kafir Bibas is an officer from the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade. That's what it's called. They are Fatah. Their supposedly moderate faction, Zakaria Zubeidi, one of the worst terrorists who was released during this agreement. He was summoned to meet with the parliament with Mahmoud Abbas. Presided over by Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority calls one of the worst terrorists to meet with him in his cabinet. Those are our peace partners. You can't offer peace to someone who rejects it. Some people don't get this, idiots like this one, the president of Colombia. People like him, and like many other progressive Muslims around the world, why don't they speak out? Have you seen any Muslim in the West protesting against this? Have you seen in the media any leader, any mosque sheikh saying, we condemn what Hamas is doing? No. What they have shown is that Islam is the worst religion of our times. It is the most violent religion. It is the cruelest. That exists on the face of the earth right now. When Muslim leaders come out to at least condemn this, and I don't mean just one or two, I mean for Islam as a whole to come out and condemn this. When that happens, they will show us something different. All of this that we're talking about is a small reminder that in Israel we can't let our guard down. If we let our guard down even a little, things like this happen. Like on October 7th, last night there were a few buses in Israel, 5 buses that were blown up.
I mean, it's inside the station, inside the bus station, look.
Buses that exploded last night. What happened is that they planted explosives with timers. Thank Hashem there was some malfunction. And the explosives detonated at night. Because these terrorists are idiots, thank God. And that's why what would have happened is that dozens, maybe even hundreds of people would have died just yesterday. Thank Hashem who saves us and protects us. Here I show you an image of the suspect. There is the suspect running.
Here we can see him in the store footage.
Here comes the train. Here I show one of the robots. It's going to deactivate one of the bombs. This is an electronic robot from Israel. It was developed during the time of the Second Intifada to deactivate bombs. Thanks to Hashem who protects us. The operation has already started, with 3 battalions going to Judea and Samaria. Their goal is to strip the terrorists in Judea and Samaria of their weapons arsenal. They were the ones who carried out these attacks last night. This can obviously delay the fighting, which may possibly start again in Gaza. The priority right now is to deal with the situation in Judea and Samaria. and then continue with Gaza. I want to tell all of you that from Israel, I thank you very much. You've supported us in Israel all along. What happened yesterday was, I think, the most intense moment since October 7th. It has been the most intense moment since the war began, and that's why I want to thank you, because you know how to distinguish between good and evil. You have a clear sense of morality about what should be happening. Israel, we are going to rise from this. Throughout history, we have overcome very difficult setbacks, even worse ones like the Shoah. We are a people with a lot of resilience. We are a strong people. Hashem is with us. We are going to defeat Hamas, and all the hostages will return to their homes, with Hashem's help. May we see that soon. I send a warm greeting to everyone from Israel.